Support for our podcast comes from Symphony 3, which has announced exciting news. It's launched its innovative Smart Glue platform on the AWS marketplace. That makes the secure and affordable integration solution accessible to government agencies worldwide. The platform includes over 50 pre-built connectors specifically designed for public sector systems, government APIs, enterprise solutions and AWS services to transform citizen experiences by breaking down data silos. Smart Glue delivers operational excellence for local governments through cost reduction, process optimization, improved decision-making and scalable architecture, all while maintaining comprehensive security and compliance standards required by public sector organisations. Get in touch to see how Symphony 3's expanded team and solutions can support your goals. Head to symphony3.com to find out more. Coming up, Frankston to step up beach safety measures after 2 tragic deaths. Concerns about private security cameras being added to Melbourne's CCTV network. Landbanking accusations from an inner-city council CEO. Concerns about New South Wales councillor conduct reforms. Women in Local Government Award winners announced. A new trial to crack down on vehicles blocking driveways. The alarm over infrastructure and crowded cemeteries sounded in Queensland. And more election surprises in WA. All of that and much more ahead on Australia's #1 local government podcast. Hello, I'm Chris Eddy, back with more news from and about councils across Australia and beyond on the Local Government News Roundup. It's brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with a new episode of VLGA Connect coming up today. And we receive support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences. Their Smart Glue platform available worldwide on the AWS marketplace. Thanks for your company to round out the week's local government news. It's Friday, the 24th of October. The tragic death of 2 people swept from Frankston Pier during extreme wind conditions on Wednesday has prompted Frankston's Mayor Chris Bolam to extend condolences to their families on behalf of the community. Frankston City Council is urging residents and visitors to heed Bureau of Meteorology warnings about strong gusts, rough seas and dangerous coastal conditions. The council is committed to enhancing beach and foreshore safety over summer, including additional lifeguard patrols, increased signage and clearer communication about hazardous conditions. The City of Melbourne reportedly plans to add 60 privately owned security cameras to its CCTV network, quadrupling the number of private cameras currently monitored by council staff. The Age reported that some councillors have expressed concern about increased public surveillance by private businesses and that business interests could influence the network's operation. Lord Mayor Nick Rees has defended the expansion, saying it's a smart way to put more eyes on the street and help police keep the city safe. And the council has voted to oppose the Victorian government's mandated work-from-home policy, with 9 councillors, including Lord Mayor Nick Rees, supporting the motion, according to the Herald Sun. With CBD office occupancy at just 64% and retail spending 18% below pre-pandemic levels, the council is calling for a more flexible approach as Premier Jacinta Allen prepares to introduce legislation establishing a right for employees to work from home 2 days per week. More than 20 sites in central Footscray with planning permits to build over 4,000 apartments are sitting idle, with some remaining undeveloped for more than 10 years, according to Maribyrnong City Council and reported today by The Age. Council Chief Executive Celia Haddock has accused property owners of land banking and called for use it or lose it rules to be considered in Victoria's planning law review, as the suburb faces a housing shortage despite approved developments. But the Urban Development Institute says developers are finding it challenging to make apartment projects financially viable in Melbourne, even in prime locations like Footscray, due to high construction costs and taxes. City of Casey councillor Lynette Pereira has successfully moved a motion calling for greater transparency around the municipality's involvement in the South East Melbourne Advanced Waste Processing Partnership. Cranbourne News reported that the motion passed unanimously and directs officers to seek assurances from the board of South East Metropolitan Advanced Waste Processing about governance, probity and legal compliance, with particular attention to changing regulations and ongoing legal action against the state government. A report outlining the board's response will be presented to the council by February. Strathbogie Shire Council has updated its approach to Australia Day events following extensive community consultation with around 800 residents. The council will now support community-led Australia Day events through existing grant programs, with councillors able to attend if invited, in a move designed to respect both those who celebrate and those who view the day as a time for reflection. The decision came after feedback through phone polling, surveys and direct discussions with community groups and the Tongarung Land and Waters Council. Hume City has elected its first ever youth council, with 12 young people chosen by more than 3,300 voters aged 11 to 17 across 19 polling locations. The newly elected members will be sworn in December and serve a 12-month term starting in January with a $10,000 budget to deliver their priorities. The Youth Council is part of a pilot program partnership between Hume City Council and the Foundation for Young Australians, also being delivered in Queensland and New South Wales. Nudgee has been selected as one of 2 Victorian towns for the Healthy Forest Plans pilot, receiving a $4 million investment announced by the Premier. The funding is part of a $30 million government plan to unlock 1.8 million hectares of state forests in Gippsland and northeast Victoria following the end of native timber harvesting. Baw Baw Shire Mayor Danny Goss welcomed the announcement, noting the town's 3-year Shaping the Future of Nudgee project has been working to support economic transition and create jobs aligned with community values. And Swan Hill Rural City Council has launched an expression of interest process to explore leasing or management options for the Swan Hill Regional Livestock Exchange, following a strategic review and community consultation. Mayor Stuart King says the facility holds deep importance for primary producers across the region who rely on it for business operations. The Council's Director of Infrastructure, Leah Johnston, says the EOI process aims to identify investment opportunities and a sustainable management model to secure the facility's long-term future. Rounding up more Victorian Council news in brief, Mornington Peninsula's mayoral charity event has raised a record $61,278 for 11 local community organisations through a recent sold-out May Day cruise event. Mayor Anthony Marsh said more than 250 guests contributed to the most successful mayoral charity fundraiser in recent memory. Latrobe City Council is backing Gambling Harm Awareness Week, running from the 27th of October to the 2nd of November with the theme Set Before You Bet. Gambling losses in Latrobe totaled $50.1 million to electronic gaming machines alone in 24-25, equivalent to $829 per adult, $254 more than the Victorian average. Bayside City Council has announced the Sandringham Family Leisure Centre pool will reopen on November 10, following a 7-month upgrade that included steel framework repairs, deck improvements and change room renovations. And the City of Greater Bendigo has adopted its UNESCO Creative City and Region of Gastronomy Action Plan, building on 4 years as Australia's first UNESCO gastronomy destination. This is the Local Government News Roundup. Lots to tell you about from around the nation today, and we'll head to New South Wales in just a moment. A quick reminder that a new edition of VLGA Connect will be out later today on YouTube and podcast, and my guest will be Sven Blumel, the Victorian Electoral Commissioner. The VEC recently tabled its report to Parliament after the conduct of the 2024 council election. It makes a lot of interesting observations, some recommendations and operational commitments, and I'll be speaking to Sven about that on the program. Don't forget also, if you're a Victorian councillor, to get your councillor census back by the end of the month. An important opportunity to have your say on all of the issues that impact on how you can be an effective local representative. Just some of how the VLGA is supporting councillors in Victoria. LG New South Wales President Phyllis Miller OAM has raised concerns about new legislation to reform councillor conduct. If passed, the legislation will lead to the creation of a one-stop shop for misconduct matters and improving transparency and accountability. LG New South Wales supports the intent. but has asked whether the Land and Environment Court is the appropriate jurisdiction for significant conduct matters, particularly those involving bullying and sexual harassment. The peak body has called for a working party to guide implementation and to ensure the legislation protects both councillors and staff while maintaining safe workplaces. The 2025 Ministers' Awards for Women in Local Government have celebrated outstanding achievements of women across New South Wales, with winners announced at Parliament House. More than 100 nominations were received across various categories, including elected representatives, alternate pathways and champions of change from both metro and regional areas. The awards are now in their 18th year and recognise the invaluable contribution that women make to local government, with female representation on councils reaching a record 40.5% at last year's elections. LG New South Wales President and Forbes Shire Mayor Phyllis Miller OAM has received the highest honour, winning the Councillor Lillian Brady OAM Award. 20-year-old Rani Diggs from Gilgandra Shire has won the Young Achievers Award for her excellence as a roads grader operator. Tweed Shire's Director of Sustainable Communities and Environment, Naomi Searle, has been awarded the Champion of Change Award, and Mossman Councillor Carolyn Corrigan has won the Metropolitan Elected Representative Award for her outstanding work advancing female representation in the sector. Councillor Corrigan served as Mossman's first popularly elected female mayor from 2017 to 2024. She founded the annual Mossman Walk for Women and has been widely recognised for mentoring and supporting other women entering public life. The full list of winners can be found on the link in the show notes from the Office of Local Government. Waverley Council has approved a 12-month trial to tow vehicles blocking driveways following more than 2,000 complaints from residents in the last financial year. Parking officers will respond to complaints within 3 hours during rostered hours, relocating offending vehicles to the nearest legal parking space. The initiative aims to increase deterrence against illegal parking and improve response times for affected residents. Gleninan's Severn Council has finalised the purchase of a former Dimmies building behind Mackenzie Mall for $1.7 million, along with surrounding car park spaces, to address critical safety and compliance issues at its current facilities. The new civic facility will house council staff and include a purpose-built council chamber that can be reconfigured for community meetings, with occupation expected by the end of 2026. General Manager Bernard Smith says the $6 million relocation project is the most cost-effective solution identified over the past 15 years. Far South Coast New South Wales councils are chasing approximately $200,000 in unpaid airport fees from Rex Airlines following the carrier's voluntary administration. Bega Valley Shire is owed $144,000 for Merimbula Airport, while Eurobodalla Shire is owed $55,000 for Maruya Airport. Both councils say they'll continue to seek payment, though it's unclear if the outstanding amounts will be recovered, according to Radio 2EC. Eurobodalla is urging residents to stop flushing so-called flushable wipes, which are creating costly fatbergs in the sewer system. Despite advertising claims, the wipes don't break down like toilet paper and instead combine with fats and oils to create massive blockages that are hazardous, expensive and time-consuming to remove. Just last week, crews removed 4 metres of clogging wet wipes from a pipe at Narooma, despite the sewer being cleared just weeks before. Kiama Council has refused a development application for Jamberoo Action Park after the site was being used to store a significant number of new vehicles without proper consent. The council became aware of the issue 2 to 3 months ago and has been working with the property owners to resolve it. The car park and overflow areas were being operated as a transport depot, a use that is prohibited in rural zones. Lismore Council has voted to continue leading the Richmond Tweed Regional Library as the Executive Council beyond June 2027. The Northern Rivers Times reported the decision includes transferring branch library staff to their respective local councils by then to improve local accountability. Other member councils are expected to finalise their positions by December before a new deed of agreement is negotiated. And Narrandera Shire Council is warning dog owners to properly secure their animals after several recent incidents of roaming dogs attacking and killing livestock on neighbouring farms. Under New South Wales law, farmers are legally entitled to use any means necessary to stop dogs attacking their livestock. and can also take civil action against owners to recover costs. The council is urging residents to regularly check fencing, never allow dogs to roam unsupervised, and ensure all dogs are registered and microchipped. Yet more New South Wales Council briefs for you. Bayside Council's $51 million transformation of a former landfill site into the Barton Park Recreational Precinct has won the prestigious Master Builders Award for sporting facilities. The 12-hectare state-of-the-art development, supported by $18 million in government funding, sets a new standard for sustainable urban development in the region. Kiama Council has announced the appointment of members to its Finance and Major Projects Advisory Committee. The committee will provide strategic advice on financial matters and major projects across the local government area. Fairfield City will this weekend officially open the newly transformed Endeavour Sports Park in Fairfield West, a major development that Mayor Frank Carboni describes as a game changer for local sports lovers. And Maitland City Council is developing its first social strategy aimed at strengthening community wellbeing and building a more connected city. The strategy will work with government agencies, community services and local groups to identify service gaps and prepare for challenges like population growth and changing social trends. Now on the roundup, let's head to Queensland, where the LGAQ conference wrapped up on Wednesday, but not before sending out some pretty clear messaging about current issues in the state. Councils are sounding the alarm over critical infrastructure funding shortfalls, with new research revealing nearly half of the state's unsealed roads are in poor condition and timber bridges pose safety risks. LGAQ says an additional $19 billion in state and federal funding is needed to repair or replace ageing assets, including water and wastewater infrastructure that's reaching a crisis point. And the state is facing what's being called a burial boom as cemeteries run out of space, with the LGAQ warning that some areas could exceed capacity within 10 to 15 years. The association's research highlights mounting pressure from the state's growing, ageing and diversifying population, with councils struggling to find suitable land for cemetery expansion. LGAQ is calling on the state government to develop a strategic statewide approach to the issue, including land supply constraints, cultural needs, financial viability and long-term management of end-of-life infrastructure. Those reforms announced at the conference by the Premier earlier in the week have received some swift reaction from some of the state's mayors. Ipswich Mayor Teresa Harding has welcomed those reforms that will protect mayors from being stripped of their spokesperson duties by fellow councillors. The changes come after a January motion by Councillor Paul Tully attempted to remove the mayor as spokesperson on council matters, exposing a legislative gap that allowed councillors to diminish mayoral powers. Under the new reforms, mayors will retain their role as council's lead spokesperson, while councillors continue to communicate with constituents on local issues. And Redland City Mayor Jocelyn Mitchell says the proposed changes don't go far enough to address concerns that processes are being weaponised for political purposes, according to a report from the Brisbane Times. While the Premier announced plans to remove conduct breaches from the Councillor Conduct Framework, Mayor Mitchell has pushed for an independent external body to handle all conduct complaints instead. She maintains the current system lacks transparency and natural justice, with anonymous complaints referred back to councils, meaning elected representatives can vote on complaints that they may have lodged themselves. Also in the news, Brisbane City Council is pushing for the federal government to count household pets in the national census. According to ABC News, the council is arguing the data would help deliver better parks, facilities and programs for domestic animals and their owners. The motion gained support at the LGAQ conference this week, with council representatives saying good data drives good decisions for responsible pet ownership. But the ABS has already ruled out including the topic in the 2026 census. It said it needs to prioritise topics based on public value and limit the burden on households. And Sunshine Coast Council has voted to phase out long-term tenants at the Dicky Beach Holiday Park through a natural attrition policy, meaning vacant sites will be converted to short-term tourist accommodation. The controversial decision passed 6 votes to 4 and affects 82 permanent residents who say the changes will devalue their homes, though current tenants won't be forced to leave. Let's head to Tasmania now, and a new $1.6 million walking track is set to be developed in the Dial Range, boosting tourism in the state's northwest. The announcement comes as Central Coast Council made what's being described as an unprecedented decision to block logging in the area. The move marks a significant shift towards prioritising tourism over timber in the region. More from the Mercury on that story. A Huon Valley Council team has been crowned national champions at the Australian Disaster Resilience Challenge, showcasing Tasmania's emergency management capabilities on the national stage. The team, led by Environmental Sustainability Manager Dr Malcolm Johnson, competed against other councils and emergency services from across Australia in a series of disaster response scenarios. To South Australia, Port Pirie Regional Council has welcomed a major US-Australia critical minerals deal that could bring a $100 million investment to the Near-Star Port Pirie smelter. The agreement follows a meeting between President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, resulting in a $13 billion deal to secure critical mineral supply chains. Mayor Leon Stevens says the potential investment represents strong international confidence in Port Pirie's skilled workforce and industrial capabilities. The South Australia Property Council Chief, Bruce DeGita, is urging the South Australian Government to review Adelaide City Council's authority over the state's economic centre. He told Adelaide Now that councillors elected by fewer than 1,000 votes hold excessive influence over decisions affecting the entire state's economy. The Property Council's election platform calls for a minister for Adelaide and suggests the council should be limited to local matters like roads, rates and rubbish. And in Western Australia, where the mop-up from the elections continues, the acting electoral commissioner has declared the recent council elections successful, despite ongoing concerns about the postal voting system. The election saw a voter turnout of approximately 30%, consistent with previous years, though some candidates and voters have raised issues about ballot delivery and collection. The Electoral Commission is reviewing the process and considering recommendations for future improvements to the voting system. Picking up on some of the more notable election results now, and there's already been a resignation of a new councillor before they were even sworn into the office. Max Zalk, the third councillor elect at the Shire of Ravensthorpe, submitted his resignation before the first council meeting. The council will seek approval for an extraordinary election to be conducted early next year. Rachel Gibson was elected Shire President and Mark Moody is Deputy Shire President for the second time. 5 councillors have been officially sworn in following the City of Bustleton election. Peter Adams, Anne Ryan, Herman Dykstra, Michaela Love and Max Mueller will join Mayor Phil Cronin and 4 other councillors to form a new 9-member council. Bruce Reynolds has been sworn in now as the 19th Lord Mayor of the City of Perth alongside 5 newly elected councillors. The ceremony at Council House marks the start of a new era for the city, with Councillor Reynolds stepping up from Deputy Lord Mayor, but he was fulfilling the Lord Mayoral duties since March this year. Councillor Philip Blight has been elected Shire President of Wagon for the 9th time at a special council meeting. 4 newly elected councillors were sworn in alongside him, with Brian Kilpatrick continuing in his role as Deputy Shire President. A change of leadership at the town of Claremont, with Peter Telford elected as the new mayor. At the town of Cottesloe, Melissa Harkins has been elected as a new mayor, with Lorraine Young transitioning from mayor to councillor. 3 others were re-elected as councillors. At the city of Gosnells, 6 councillors were elected to serve until October 2029. The results showed voters backing a mix of experience and some newcomers, with 3 first-time councillors joining 3 re-elected members. City of Wanneroo voters have largely returned incumbent councillors to their seats, with 6 of 7 up for re-election keeping their positions. Former councillor Hugh Nguyen has made a comeback in the South West Ward, defeating Natalie Herridge, who had held the seat since 2021. And Jason Miguel has been re-elected as the Mayor of Bunbury. 4 councillors were elected from 13 candidates, including 3 re-elected members and 1 newcomer, Julie Broad. Global report time, and proving that housing is an issue everywhere, the UK government and the Mayor of London have announced emergency measures to tackle the housing crisis in the capital, including a fast-tracked planning route for developments with at least 20% affordable housing and temporary relief from development levies. The Mayor will gain new powers to review and call in housing schemes, while an initial £322 million will fund a City Hall Developer Investment Fund to accelerate construction. The measures aim to unlock tens of thousands of homes across London, which has been facing a perfect storm of high construction costs, interest rates and regulatory challenges that have stalled house building. In Scotland, Argyll and Bute Council is set to submit a holding objection to plans for 9 180-metre wind turbines after councillors reacted angrily to officers' recommendations. The council was asked by the Scottish Government for its views on the wind farm, which would have a maximum generating capacity of 50 megawatts. Councillors expressed frustration that community objections were being disregarded, with several stating the local voices should have greater weight in planning decisions. That story from the BBC. From The Guardian, Freedom of Information requests have revealed that not a single prosecution for illegal wood burning has been made in England over the past year, despite more than 15,000 complaints and just 24 fines being issued by local authorities. The Guardian reported that in smoke control areas alone, complaints surged by 65%. Campaigners are warning that the lack of enforcement is leaving people exposed to harmful smoke from the UK's leading source of fine particulate pollution. Cumberland Council in northwest England has launched a region-wide campaign to tackle abuse against public-facing staff, with the message that behind every uniform is a person who deserves respect and dignity at work. The initiative will see selected team members wearing body cams to record abusive behaviour, with footage handed to police for potential prosecution, while surveillance technology will monitor high-risk areas. In the US, Providence City Council has urged Rhode Island courts to offer remote virtual hearings due to the increased presence of immigration officers near courthouses, which has created fear and uncertainty among residents. The council passed a resolution calling for virtual hearings to allow people to access the legal system without the threat of detention by ICE, following estimates that more than 20 people have been detained outside state courthouses since July. The measure directs Providence's municipal and probate courts to accommodate remote hearings beginning November 1st, building on technology expanded during the COVID pandemic. More on that from USA Today. In an update on a story brought to you in an earlier edition from Florida, My 13 News reports that Palm Bay City Councilman Chandler Langevin has now filed a lawsuit against the city after his fellow council members voted to censure him over controversial comments about Indian Americans on social media. He's prohibited from speaking during committee and council reports and requires majority approval to place items on the agenda, but his attorney claims this violates his client's freedom of speech. Langevin has also drawn criticism for using official city letterhead to request a pardon for a convicted supremacist leader. And let's finish up in Canada, where elections have been happening in Alberta and voters have delivered a stunning rebuke to incumbent mayors, with more than a dozen sitting mayors defeated in what marks one of the most significant political turnovers in recent memory. Cross-border interviews reported that the wave of change swept from Calgary, where Jyoti Gondek lost to Jeremy Farkas, to smaller communities, including Lacombe, West Akeewan and Barhead, where voters chose fresh leadership. Many of the newly elected mayors are current councillors, signalling a desire for change while maintaining local experience. Calgary's Mayor-elect Jeremy Farkas has outlined his priorities following his narrow victory, pledging to repeal blanket rezoning and focus on safety, affordability and council unity. He's a former councillor who ran as an independent, defeating Community First leader Sonia Sharp by just 584 votes. The incumbent Jyoti Gondek finished in third. The council will have its lowest female representation in more than a decade, with just 2 women securing seats on the 15-member council, down from 5 in the previous term. And Medicine Hat Mayor Lindsay Clark has been re-elected after a turbulent 18 months that saw her sanctioned by the council for breaching the city's code of conduct. A judge later struck down most of those sanctions, calling them disproportionate and unreasonable. Clark defeated former provincial politician Drew Barnes by around 750 votes, and she says she hopes the council can undergo conflict resolution training moving forward. And we've reached the finish line of another busy week here at the Local Government News Roundup. This was edition number 508, recorded on the morning of Friday the 24th of October 2025. Comments and feedback can be sent by email to lgweeklynews@gmail.com. If you'd like to know more about any of the stories in this episode or find the story links, head to lgnewsroundup.com. The podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, your councillor support network, and support comes from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences. The Local Government News Roundup is recorded in the city of Greater Geelong, Victoria, on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. We come your way every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. I'll be back on Monday with more. Until then, thanks for listening and bye for now. The VLGA's Victorian Councillor Census is back again in 2025. All councillors in Victoria will be emailed the census on the 6th of October and will have until the end of the month to complete. In its second year, the annual census captures and tracks councillor demographics, attitudes and the key challenges to local governance over time. You don't need to be a VLGA member to participate, and at no stage will the VLGA have access to an individual's responses. The findings of the census will inform, influence and lead conversations across local government and with other tiers of government, and all responses will be fully confidential. This is your chance to have your voice heard as a councillor. The Councillor Census is part of the VLGA's commitment to support councillors on their journey to be successful community representatives.